Welcome back for our last session. Were you able to pick out the temperament of anyone you talked to last week? It's fun, isn't it? Well, it's fun, and if you feel like I did a few weeks in, it's overwhelming. This is a lot of stuff to keep straight. For months after I learned about temperaments, I was a mess in most conversations, always trying to remember what their temperament needs. We finally taped the list to our refrigerator. It's exactly like learning a second language. I took Spanish in high school, and in the beginning, I had to, in my head, translate everything back to English, think it over, and then translate what I wanted to say in English back to Spanish. Thinking about temperaments when you're talking works the same way. In the beginning, you're kind of translating what you want to say into the language they speak. It can feel clunky and unnatural, but so did Spanish. Eventually, though, with lots of practice, you'll be fluent in the languages of all four temperaments. The words they crave will come naturally to you. Kathleen says the goal is this isn't something you do, but someone you become. Easy as that, right? We get it. This framework may be simple, but it's not easy. So let's talk through an action plan. 3 next steps. We put a cheat sheet for each of these in your book. Step 1, stay in your strengths. A few sessions back, Terrence said it's just like the instructions you get pre-flight. Put your own oxygen mask on first before assisting others. Our only hope for building others up with our words is by doing it for ourselves first. God created you perfectly with a set of strengths. Own them confidently. That's your authentic self. That's the very best version of you. You'll find a strength training page in your book with ways you can practice your strengths. Step 2, work on your weaknesses. Your temperament is not a weapon, and it's not an excuse. Yes, it's innate, it's unchangeable, but that's not an excuse for your weaknesses, and it's not permission to manipulate. Now that you know better, you have the chance to do better. We've collected scripture verses that talk about ways each temperament can grow. Consider memorizing 1 or 2 of the verses for yours. And step 3, be a builder. Here comes the common pushback. This all sounds too nice, too gentle. I mean, are we supposed to zip our lips and just lie so we never hurt anyone's feelings again? Let's circle back to Ephesians 4:29 one final time. It tells us to say only what is helpful for building others up. Notice it says helpful, not nice. For some of us, yes, that's a call to back off. But for others, it's a call to speak up. We are to use our words to build each other up. That leaves plenty of room to say hard things. Now we just know how to say them in a constructive way. The Build Up Guide in your book can be a sort of script until you get the hang of this. We want to leave you this week feeling confident that you already know more than you think you do. Ephesians 4:29 sets a high standard. But now that you know you're manipulating words, you're well on your way to catching unwholesome talk before it comes out of your mouth. And if you can really learn the 4 needs for each temperament, you know how to choose words that will build others up and benefit all. As Terrence said last week, you have a cheat sheet. Think back to our first week together and the stories you shared of words that have marked you your whole life. You now know how to speak those same powerful, life-giving words to others. Imagine what this might do with your relationship with your kids, or with your wife, or your husband or parents, or that frustrating colleague. We hope what happens next sets this apart from the personality tests and other group studies you've done. Even though you're at the end of this 6-week study, you're really just getting started. Understanding temperaments is a lifelong journey. It may be months before you can define your own needs. And learning how to meet family and friends' needs is a process of trial and error that never really ends. We hope you'll come back to this content again and again, especially when you see how it radically can change your relationships. It certainly has in my family. As we head out to try and apply this, you may still have a few questions. Our group did too. So one final time, let's join Kathleen.
So this is our last session together. Yeah, it's usually in this session that the questions are just overflowing in your mind and in your heart, probably just in every thought you have, right?
Oh, yeah.
So this is your chance to ask me any questions that have come up in the last sessions that you want some answers to.
I was wondering if for the different temperaments, if there are any industries and careers that we're more predisposed to be successful in. Like if you recognize that maybe your son or daughter is
Yeah.
one of these you can steer them, say, hey, you may be interested in this down the road, or if I'm doing the right thing, or if I'm
Right,
doing
right. And that's a great question. That's fascinating, actually, because in our school systems and whatnot, we have a tendency to tell children what they're like. Oh, you're this, so you would be a good fireman, or you would be a good nurse, or you would be a good policeman. What you want to do with the temperaments is actually work it backwards. You know your strengths, so you want to eliminate industries that don't match up with your strengths. So if you're very analytical and you're orderly and you like numbers and you like quiet time to think, and that's really where you seem to have your passion, then being a front desk person, answering questions or customer service probably would be X'd off, right? So you want to go with those strengths and see what paralyzes. Like Jeremy, you're in care. So that's shepherding people, right? That's finding them and building them up the way they should be. True?
Yeah.
And then really you're in your talents as well, right? Just doing the creative and the imaginative and just being energetic on all the time. So it's working those strengths and then working them backwards.
Sure.
Okay? What I love to say is that, the word enthusiasm means God within. So if you can match your strengths up with your passion, then getting up every day and doing that, then you're honoring God with it.
Yeah,
Your
makes a lot
calling,
of
right?
sense.
Right? Anybody else?
Okay, so speaking of little kiddos, what's the earliest age that you can start identifying a person's temperament?
Temperament? Well, since you're born with it, right?
Oh.
Right? It's not birth, but about 9 months. 9 to 12 months, you can start to watch. Like my daughter, who's a sanguine, she at 9 months was babbling in the grocery. She would babble with everybody as we went through the store. Bryce, he's a melancholy. He wouldn't even go up and get the cookie at the bakery. You mean interact and talk with him? No, not even as a little guy. He would forego the cookie. So you want to look at the words they say, Jeremy, with your little ones, the words that they use, pictures. If you look back at pictures, you can start identifying your children. Like I've seen your child, and she is dancing on the lawn chairs, right? So you're starting to get a little idea, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it can be quite young.
9 months.
9 to 12 months.
Are there parent-child combinations of temperament that are more challenging or almost too challenging?
Almost too challenging? What I see in my office, there's two that come up all the time, actually, and they can be a little bit heartbreaking, because what happens is the parents bring their children to me, and they're like, doesn't want to be on the cheerleading team or the softball team, or he has this great arm for baseball, or he wants to quit, and what's wrong with them? Fix them, right? And then I meet the children, and usually the children are lovely. Because the children come in and they usually know their temperament. I mean, they're okay with who they are. But it's in parenting that we have sometimes the conflict. What I see the most is 2 overlapping choleric parents that have a phlegmatic child. And all that child is hearing is, move it, get going, hurry up, why aren't you on the team? The volume's up, why aren't you more like your brother? That peppered at a phlegmatic child is really gonna hurt their worthiness and their respect. Wow. The second one that I see a lot is 2 melancholy parents with a sanguine child. And those melancholy parents come in and what the child is hearing is, sit still, you're too loud, right? You're too wiggly, you're embarrassing me. Did you ever hear any of that growing up?
Yeah.
Right? And every time those words are spoke over a child, you're dulling that sparkle of that beautiful sanguine person. So we want to really be careful with the words as parents, that we're speaking life words like Proverbs 18:21. We're speaking life words and choosing life words instead of death words. But those 2 combinations seem to be the hardest in parenting.
So just as a quick follow-up, what I think I'm hearing you say is that in the temperaments, the reds and the blues are more task-oriented. I think we learned that, right?
Yeah.
And so if those are the parents, they're going to tend to be less sensitive to the relationship, it sounds
Exactly.
like.
Exactly.
Being the primary thing
Right.
that they should be focused on. Okay. Yeah.
Because again-
Flunked that, just in case you wanted to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thinking about relationships, How does the love languages fit with temperaments?
Okay. I love that question because I get that question a lot. The love languages is a great tool. It's a wonderful tool. But again, where that sits is up in the personality realm. What we're learning is temperament. So let me give you an example of that. I'm going to use Leslie. Leslie and I may both have words of affirmation for our love language. Yeah. Do you see the problem already?
Yeah.
She's looking and craving words, affirmations that fill loyalty and appreciation. And my words of affirmation are going to fill sensitivity and support and safety. So even though it's a great tool, you have to know the temperaments to the core and to be able to use it effectively.
As the single person here, I would think the single people watching this would be curious about how this affects who they should be pursuing and matching up with. And I know
Right.
we've talked a little bit about how the same color might not be the best match,
Right.
even if that's who we might be initially drawn to.
Right.
So how does that, should we be staying away from people like us and just going across the diagonal?
Can't do it. Kathleen said no.
How conscious of that should we be, I guess?
I think you have to be conscious of it to a point of, but you be authentically yourself and realizing maybe I'm being drawn to this person because they're comfortable, especially for a melancholy, right? Or maybe I'm drawn to this person because their energy matches mine, okay? But you want to know that at the front end. You know, you want to be talking about those innate needs and really what is drawing you to each other from the very beginning. And now that you know the temperaments, you can kind of have this discussion. Like,
Sure.
what's important to you is sensitive. You know, I see that you were sensitive about that, and hear what they say back, right? Because really, statistically, the opposite temperaments do attract first. And really, they create the strongest bond. But all the combinations can work if we're authentic and we're seeing the best in the other person. Okay?
That's so good. Okay, I have another one. I wrote mine down. So I'm a yellow with I'm secondary red,
Okay.
which is crazy. How important is the second temperament? Like, how does that kind of play a part? Is it like you switch off? Like, how does that work?
Well, the thing is, again, you want to be aware of your secondary temperament. Now, some individuals, their dominant and their secondary are very equal.
Yeah.
Okay? So there really isn't a distinguishing, like you cannot really identify that person as like you're very identifiable as a sanguine, right? But there's some sanguines like my daughter you really cannot tell necessarily that she's a sanguine because she doesn't really crave being on stage. But she's very creative and she's very imaginative and she's very talkative and approachable. But she has a phlegmatic side. So she's very calm and she's very easygoing, right? So you have to really speak to somebody, and the best way to know somebody is time, right? But what you're going to find out first is somebody who's very dominant. I'm very dominant in a melancholy, so it doesn't take people long to figure that out. It may take them longer to figure out what my secondary is, okay? So it's just about how deep you stay in that first temperament.
One of the things you talked about was when we're trying to speak in words that are going to build up to someone else's temperament, that we should pause.
Yes.
Is there a certain temperament that finds it easier to pause or more difficult?
Well, I think the ones that are innately pausers are going to do that first, and that would be the phlegmatics and the melancholies. And remember, Andrew and I will pause because we're very cautious of the words we say. So we're going to be thinking that through before we put our names to any words that we say, because our motto is if it's worth doing right, okay? You, on the other hand, just like your coffee, you're going to think that through a little bit because you're going to want to make sure, right, that you say the thing. The ones that, again, that are going to struggle with the pause are going to be the ones with no filter. Yeah, they're going to have to really learn to initiate that
Didn't
pause.
feel really built up just that moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
You did feel it. But I believe you can do it. I believe in you. I know you can accomplish. You know why? Because I challenge you to do it, Leslie.
Yeah.
There you
I would
go.
also
How's
like
that?
a little, whatever you just gave her, I'd like a little bit of that.
I know, and I think you can do it. I really do.
Thank you.
So Kathleen, if the other person that you're interacting with has no knowledge whatsoever of temperaments, can this still make a difference in the relationship with them?
I think, I know it can. Remember, a couple sessions ago when we talked about the checkout girl at Publix.
Yeah.
How many complete strangers can you interact with a day that maybe just one word,
Yeah.
just, acknowledges them?
I have a little bit of an analytical question.
Sure.
In all your experience with these colors, have you noticed any of them are more common or less common than others, or is it pretty evenly distributed?
That's what's fascinating, really, it is. Because as when I speak to these big groups, we'll raise hands, how many of these, or even in small groups, and it is really very even.
Cool.
It really is very even. And what you have to know, it's even between genders. So it's not like there's more melancholy women and less melancholy men, or more phlegmatic men. No, it's very evenly dispersed. So I think you guys are really getting this. This is a fun journey, but it can be a long journey. So I'm going to ask you to put into practice what you've learned as more frequently as you can. The thing that's encouraging with this, though, is you cannot unhear what you've heard. So you're not going to unknow what you've heard. And so you're going to find yourself putting it into practice right away when you leave here, right? So for Tony and my sanguine friends, please don't let anybody dull your sparkle. The way you walk into a room and immediately brighten it up, this is what God wired you for. Your enthusiasm and your optimism is unmatched. But here's the challenge. When taken to an extreme, your strengths can become your weaknesses. In your strengths, you are simply magnetic. But when you're struggling for that attention and acceptance, you can push those strengths so far you step right into your weaknesses. Skip the charm. You don't need it. You are loved and accepted exactly as you are. For Leslie and my choleric friends, God has you wired for a great vision. He gave you the talent, work ethic, and drive to see it to fruition. You are wired for success. Even though you don't see some of your weaknesses as weaknesses, they are. And they could cost you not only personal relationships, but the loyalty and appreciation that you crave. Staying in your strengths isn't about throttling your power. It's about softening your edges, being approachable, leading by example, and leveraging your influence. That's where you'll find real power as the dynamic leader God designed you to be. To Jeremy and my phlegmatic friends, what kind souls you are. You reflect so much of the nature of Jesus. Your calm, patience, and willingness to listen draws people to you. You are gifted to be an incredible leader of people, shepherds, just like Jesus. Where I see you struggle is not being aware of how your lack of words or lack of urgency affects other people. We don't know how to fill that empty space between you and us, so we're left thinking you're bored or bothered. But when you speak up, sharing your ideas and feelings, that's where you'll find the worthiness and respect that you've been craving all along. And for Andrew and my melancholy friends, you are so uniquely gifted, both analytical and artistic. You have strengths that will help you excel through almost anything. But your negative self-talk, judgment, and criticism, it's like quicksand. Instead of spiraling downward, you must work every day to take those thoughts captive. Think instead on what's noble, pure, lovely, and admirable. You may strive for perfection, but God already sees you that way. I want to leave you with a laugh. What you're about to see actually happened to my family on vacation years ago. We're going to recreate that for you. At the time, it was not funny, especially for a melancholy like me. But now that I know you know the temperaments, I think you'll see the humor in it.
Sweet, a mini bar.
Okay, kids, your room will be ready in half an hour, so just put your bags in the corner.
Oh, look at this view. Come here, kids. Look at this view. Honey, you are going to love this view. Come on.
I already saw it when we came in.
Now you all can see how my hard work was paid off.
Suitcases on the floor. Do you know how many germs are on those suitcases? What are you looking for? We've been in here for 30 seconds. This room was perfect. We have this sheet on the bed. And this. Honey.
Kids, listen to your mother.
Hey, Mom, can we go explore?
I want to chill before we go to the pool.
Yes, the pool. Mom, can we go to the pool?
You can go as long as you stay together. And do not talk to any strangers.
Okay, family, the plan for tonight. It is presently 4 p.m. We are having Italian food. Our reservation is 5 p.m. All right? Then we will take a trip down the boardwalk. We will stop at 6 p.m. for ice cream. You're welcome. Then we will go to the pool. Then we will all be in bed by 9 p.m. sharp. All right? We have a busy day tomorrow.
I thought this was vacation.
Oh no. Oh no. Flood kit, first aid kit, where is it?
Hey, Mom, you're on a vacation live stream. Say hi.
All right, so I had it at the kitchen table. I replaced the expired lidocaine.
Mom, do you want me to help you look for something?
What is she looking for? We don't know.
The fire kit. I didn't put it back in the bag.
Mom, there's not gonna be a fire. Fire!
Everyone, we practiced this before at the house. This is no different. Grab your shoes, grab your stuff, and stay low behind me. Come on.
This is awesome.
I knew something like this was gonna happen.
This is so great.
I
I'm
had
gonna
a
grab my
feeling
camera and
that
get the
this
time
was too good to be
Y'all
true.
need to start moving right now.
Honey, please stop yelling.
I'm not yelling.
Well, can you not yell quieter?
Mom, I don't smell smoke or hear any fire engines.
Smith family, there is a fire. We need to leave now.
No, we have to stay together.
No one is going anywhere. Pause. What can I have said differently? What can I have said differently? Hey, honey, I can see that you're frustrated.
We gotta get out of here. You guys just go without me and I'll just get organized here.
How about we stop at the drugstore on the way back from dinner and we get a whole new fire
It
kit?
doesn't matter. I'm not prepared now.
I understand why you're upset, but I need you to help me get us out the door. And I just need to make sure that we are safe and outside. Okay?
You're right. You're right. Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. Okay.
Hey, buddy. Oh, hey. Hey, oh. Hey, I got an idea for your video thingy. Maybe your phone follower people might want to see firefighters in action. How about we go downstairs now and catch them in action while they're still here?
Dad, you're a genius. See you down there.
Finally.
Unfortunately, the building didn't burn out. It would have been so
there you
cool if it had
are.
been a big boom and fire trucks would have been everywhere. Dad, you like fire?
Okay,
Fire trucks would have been
family,
everywhere, man.
regroup. All right, Plan A is back on.
So, does this mean we can go to the pool?
Girl, if you don't stop talking about that pool.
Hey, Dad, you like fire? The fire trucks would have made. They would have made a lot of. Come on. Hey, have you found my yellow shirt?